Let me see if y'all gave me any donations.
Right on cue.
I'm giving y'all all my wisdom, but
Umar
where the donations
Johnson with it.
Last donation to the school was Richard Harris. Somebody better get on their Cash App.
On Facebook.
Somebody better get on their Cash App. Cash.me/$FDMG school. I better get some donations. I'm about to hang up.
All right. And we are live. Peace, peace, peace. I am Phillip Roundtree, and you are tuned into the July 13th, 2020 edition of Rhetorically Speaking. It's just like, yo, the year is going by super fast. Have no idea what day it is. Tired as ever. This quarantine life that I'm living, because clearly a lot of y'all could give a damn about COVID. None of y'all care about COVID. I'm not going to say none of y'all, but I see the way y'all be posted up in y'all videos. Y'all be dancing all in the videos. Ain't that what Suge Knight said? Dancing all in the videos, taking pictures, cheesing. It'd be like 10 of y'all all outside, nobody with a mask on. Listen, and I've been fighting against posting about how I feel about the situation, like, because I have empathy and I care about people. But Dragoff said, if he dies, he dies. And I feel like if you're out here being reckless, if we know exactly what COVID can do to you, we're not out of the water yet. You just out here at happy hours, or if you in like the video in Southwest Philly, where it was literally hundreds of people dancing and partying at a block party, and that's how you giving it up out here, then listen, I think a part of you doesn't care about living. And so I don't necessarily know if I feel bad about saying what Ivan Drago said, if he dies, he dies, when he was talking about Apollo Creed and Rocky IV. Of course, I'm not wishing that on you. But listen, if you walking in the middle of the street during rush hour and it just so happened to not be any cars, that don't mean there's no cars coming, because cars are going to come and you're probably going to get hit by it. So listen, I encourage you, I implore you, please wear a mask. Because I don't want to see any rest in peace. I done seen some rest in peace for people I know due to COVID, and some folk that's been on ventilators and all that. Again, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. So, props to the people who are watching on Facebook Live. Shout out to the people who are watching on YouTube Live. Make sure you hit that subscribe button for Quantify LLC. And I see y'all on IG. I'm not acknowledging y'all today, because y'all see what the links say. It say tune in on Quantify LLC. Those views matter. This don't necessarily mean nothing. You know what I mean? So if you care about me, if you care about your lives, then take it over to Facebook and or YouTube. Shout out to Marla, who's watching in two places. What you got, the laptop and the cell phone? Salute to you, Queen. Salute to you. But listen, we're gonna get right into it. So listen, I feel like this whole Jada Pinkett Smith entanglement thing, like, we passed it. It has jumped the shark officially. I don't want to see anybody write about entanglement, even though it was the proper word to use, but it just didn't feel good when you're talking about your relationship with somebody else. But I'm not rehashing that situation. What I will talk about is this notion that, and I see a lot. I see people like, don't get distracted. Don't get distracted. Don't get distracted by this. And it's just like, well, what do you mean don't get distracted? Like, people can do multiple things at once, right? Like in this moment, in that hour that I did on Friday, shout out to the good brother Power. Peace to you. Because I did an hour of Jada Pinkett Smith and getting a reaction because it just came down that day, that doesn't mean I'm distracted from anything else that's happening in the world. And I feel like this is only black folk have this conversation or make this assertion that we can't do multiple things at once. Like we can't talk about something that's entertainment related, or we can't talk about something that's mundane and still be focused on the task at hand, which is overthrowing. I want to say overthrowing the government, keep it real. But I know everybody not on that top time. When we talking about defunding the police, when we talking about advocating on behalf of Breonna Taylor and other women who've been killed by police and brothers who've been killed by police, and advocating for our black and brown babies who have to go to school in classrooms that had asbestos way before it had COVID. Like, we can't do both. Like, I sit back and I think, like, damn, what do you do all day? What do you do all day if you telling people don't be distracted? Are you making phone calls 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Are you emailing all through the night? Or do you take time to breathe? Do you take time to go eat? Is eating a distraction? Or no, because it's nourishment of your body? Is reading a trashy novel, is that a distraction? Or is that getting away from the difficulties and the stressors that life can offer? Like, what is this distraction that people talk about? Marla says people talk out loud to themselves. Perhaps they just themselves are distracted by it. And I very well think that might be the case. But I think it's something endemic to our community. I don't know what white folk do. I don't know what Asian folk do. I'm not a part of Asian Twitter or white Twitter. Even though I think it'd be quite curious to see what they talking about like right now. But again, this idea of being distracted. Initially, when the NBA was coming back, and I saw Kyrie Irving and Dwight Howard talking about, listen, this could be a distraction from the cause. I was like, I guess I understand it because it's something that hasn't been there. But then I had to take a step back and say, well, listen, do you think that less of me? Do you think that less of a community? That they're not going to be able to be out here in the streets, and we've seen that dwindle down. Shout out to the educators who were out here in Philly on Saturday. But do you think we're not capable of being in the fight? Because if we keep it real, we're all distracted. Nobody has all the skin in the game. We're all distracted, because if that's the case, we would still be out in the streets by the hundreds, by the thousands like we were just 3 weeks ago. So we're all distracted. We're all distracted by our individual lives. Right? Some people are distracted by their job that they have to go through because they got to make a living. If we're going to talk about distractions, hence the reason why I say there's no such thing as a distraction. People either care or people don't care. And then the level of care is on a continuum. So again, I'm not a fan of this. Like I did the conversation about the Red Table Talk. That was fun for me. I enjoy hearing the feedback. I enjoy putting my clinical hat on to have a conversation about individuals, in this case a woman, potentially taking advantage of a vulnerable man. Because these are conversations that need to take place. Or we're going to continue to be in this area of, oh, I don't know, or turned in a blind eye. Hopefully this situation makes people aware that this does indeed happen. And then what I saw was it was another group of people who they were going to ride for Jada regardless. And because what we talking about right now, we're talking about just detriments to the community, right? And I think any type of blind riding within the subculture of the black community can be problematic, especially when we're talking about unhealthy behaviors. And so I had a woman tell me on her post, she told me, go off, Jada, when I tried to have a dissenting opinion. And so I unfriended her. And then she messaged me or tagged me in a post saying, well, why did I unfriend her? And went on this whole soliloquy about this being a safe space for black women. I can respect that, right? But I think if we're talking about the idea of growth in a community, I think we're talking about challenging unhealthy behaviors no matter who does it. Because again, that's if you have a goal of growing as a people and not growing apart, but growing together. And we understand that in certain areas, some of us have to grow more than others. And so again, and I ain't want to spend, this ain't no red table recap for real, because that's day life. I'm past it. I got my issue off about it. I hope you did too. But just this idea of distraction and an idea of what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I ain't got no geese. I just know the geese that I want to happen is growth for a community. And speaking on this entanglement thing, because I see that word became popular, I'm glad people are Googling. I'm glad people are seeing what the word means. Hopefully moving forward, we continue to do the Google thing. We continue to learn new words because it helps our vocabulary. It helps us think. So entanglement has gone from being in pure obscurity for so many of us to now being at the forefront. So I'm excited to see what the future holds for entanglement. I got to ask you, Amanda Seales, the sister rider for Jada. I don't know what Amanda Seales is. I'm not offended. Don't compare me to Amanda Seales. I don't like Amanda Seales. Why? Because she blocked me. And if you heard my Amanda Seales story, long story short, she said something on a post that I didn't appreciate, and I responded. And then she went to the DM. Maybe she was going to DM me. And she saw that a few years ago. I sent her a pic like, hey, make me your MCM. Ha, ha, ha. And she responded like, yo, oh, you a cornball. I could very well be a cornball. Shooting my shot in the DM. You always got to shoot the shot. I wouldn't be my partner now if I ain't shoot my shot in the DM like a cornball. You know what I'm talking about? But that still doesn't negate the fact that whatever I was saying was accurate. And so when I talk about Amanda Seales, yeah, I'm not hopefully we not similar. Hopefully I handled it with a lot more grace and maturity than I've seen her being able to do. You dig me? So we going to get out of Jada. No pun intended. No pun intended. And we're going to get into what Peyton Manning now on YouTube is saying right now, talking about the Washington Generals would have sounded good. So unless you've been under a rock for these last few weeks, during the midst of this unrest, this has been a perfect opportunity for aggrieved groups to be able to speak their mind about whatever it is they're feeling. We know that indigenous folk have taken the Washington Redskins to court to try and get them to change their name, and they just wouldn't. What did it take? It didn't take the people. It didn't take the people on the grounds. What it took was the money in the pockets of sponsors like FedEx, like Nike, like Amazon, like Walmart, and saying, yo, change this name or we're out. And so what's the old saying? The old adage, money talk, bullshit walk? Well, money talked. In the Washington racist Redskins football team, they were changing their name. So the day they came out with a statement, and I'm going to read the statement briefly. On July 3rd, we announced the commencement of a thorough review of the team's name. That review has begun in earnest. As part of this process, we want to keep our sponsors, fans, and community apprised of our thinking as we go forward. Today, we are announcing we will be retiring the Redskins name and logo upon completion of this review. Dan Snyder and Coach Rivera are working closely to develop a new name and design approach that will enhance the standing of our proud tradition, rich franchise, and inspire our sponsors, fans, and community for the next 100 years. You know what that's called? That's called I was in reading group B. I should have been in A, because you see how fluid that was. But that's not the point. So yes, they are changing their name. But let me highlight something for you, right? Because you might have missed it. People might be all like, oh my gosh, they're finally changing the names, right? They're finally changing the names. As Jari says, shout out to Jari, it took money for them to change their names. But this is how you know that when racists have no idea what being anti-racist means, and that racists are always going to racist. How many Redskins are in this press release? How many times is the word Redskins mentioned in this press release? If you're so concerned about change, you have it at the title, in the heading. Okay, let me give you that, because that's what the name is right now, Washington Redskins. Then we have statement from the Washington Redskins football team. Then we have, today we are announcing we will be retiring the Redskins name and logo. Again, they do not get it. They do not get it. Again, falls on deaf ears. And so that's when I talk about the idea of change. You in life, my old professor, Dr. Cambone Camara, God bless the dead, he said, in life you change to get something or to keep something. And so in this case, the Redskins are changing so they could keep their money. But again, this doesn't mean that they're not racist. This doesn't mean that leadership and ownership has an idea about what being a leader means. What this shows is that they're plumb dumb. This shows that they do not get it, because they continue to use the name Redskins in a press release saying we're no longer using the name Redskins. We're changing our name. But again, this speaks to the bigger issue, right? This speaks to the bigger issue, and why myself, when it comes to those who double down on their racism, I have no energy for. This isn't about a teachable moment. Jamel Johnson says, Snyder has never cared, doesn't care, and never will care about this name. Because again, he's a businessman. He bought the team in his 30s. So clearly he's a bright individual. It's not like it came from old money. Right? But again, this idea like this is a kumbaya coming to God moment for a lot of people, a lot of companies, organizations out here, that's the furthest thing from the truth. I say it time and time again, it's the desire to be on the right side of history. And with this statement, this shows that they're not on the right side. They're on the white side of history, not the right side of history. But a beautiful thing is that's taking place in all of this. The Redskins don't have a name yet. The Washington racist Redskins do not have a name yet. Why? Oh, yes, they have a name that they want to use. But because of a guy named Phillip. See, Phillips be out here doing amazing things. The name not only means lover of horses, but it also means hate on your ops. I just learned that word from watching like these Chicago series on YouTube. The ops, your opposition. Hate on the ops and get a bag in the process if you can. So this guy named Phillip, who's a realtor in Alexandria, Virginia, when it came down that they were going to change the name, he went and trademarked every potential name that they could use. Because the list of names is being betted on in Vegas. And so what did he do? He went and trademarked about 10 names. And so now in the Washington football team, they don't have a name because the name that they want to use is already trademarked. And so what does that mean? Well, I wish I had that little white girl. Cash me outside. How about that? You gonna cash Phillip out? This realtor, who at max paid what? What's 10 times 3? $3,000? Because that's what it costs to trademark a name. $300 a pop. So he trademarked the name. He gonna make them earn it. Because we know money talks. Just like I have no problem with the sister Lady A, who's the jazz artist, and now in this group, Lady Antebellum. I don't know the name. I went to a white university. I still don't know their music because they want to use the name Lady A, and she's been using it for 20 years. So she said, cut me a check for $10 million and it's yours. There's big business out here, man. You either going to get down or you going to lay down. We not taking no shorts. We not taking no shorts because that's what this world is. This world is about money. This world is about capitalism. That's the game. I had people commenting on my post yesterday because I went and got the little COVID test, right? Hopefully I don't have it. I don't have any symptoms. But I went and got the COVID test because I'm like, it's free. I owe it to myself to go take the test, especially if it's free. That's my language. And so I went to Rite Aid. They gave me the little thing. I stuck it up my nose. I hope I got it up far enough. Gave it, broke the stick, put it in the little solution, gave it back to her. Bam, I'm out. 5 minutes. I read that it says it could take up to 10 days to come back. Somewhere between 2 and 10 days. And so for me, that highlighted the inequities that exist in healthcare. The fact that LeBron could get tested 10 times in a day if he wanted to and get the results that same day. But here I am, broke Phil. I ain't got Brian money. I can't do that. I'm not in the NBA. I'm not an elite. So if it takes 10 days, it's going to take 10 days. Now, again, and I have people, and understand, reading is fundamental, people. I love everybody, right? But reading is fundamental. We got to read some of the context clues. Because if I say it takes up to 10 days, that doesn't mean it's going to take 10 days. Because I had a lot of people commenting about how it's going, they got there sooner. I'm not saying it's going to take that long. But again, this is what we talk about, entanglement. That's going to help you. When we studying up on the words in the dictionary and we start reading more and critical thinking, we be able to see that that's not what I was referencing. But when I talk about this idea of inequity that exists in healthcare, in our various systems, whether it's education, healthcare, any other place that you can identify, it's inequity, right? And so the fact of the matter is, the elite have the opportunity to do something that I can't because of money. And that just doesn't feel, that not only doesn't feel right, but it's not right. But I understand that it's a reality. And so fact of the matter is, I could take a COVID test yesterday, like I did, not get the results back for 10 days and catch COVID today. But I wasn't out Southwest Philly with y'all people out here. And I'm not out here at happy hours with y'all when y'all tripping, like I said in my opener. Because y'all reckless. And again, that's why I battle with myself. The person who empathizes, that Phil says, no, you recognize that people just need to be out and be amongst the people. But the violent Phil, because it is a violent thought that Ivan Drago thought. When he hit Apollo Creed with that side 3000 punch. If he dies, he dies. Because again, you know the consequences, man. If you continue to be out here while being reckless, then unfortunately you won't get what's coming to you. Or worse yet, you won't give something to somebody else who is doing the right thing. But we're going to keep the party going, man, because I ain't trying to be here all day. I'm kind of sleepy. This last story is, I don't know. I don't like this guy. I don't like this Chance the Rapper guy. It's because it was something just, can somebody be too happy? Is that a thing? Is that a thing, people being too happy, being too nice, and it just don't seem authentic? I feel like that's the imagery that Chance give off. He give off that Jada Will imagery. Where just, this is my life and it's just perfect. And so I never really felt him. You know what I mean? I don't think he could rap all like that anyway. But the day he came out with a series of tweets expressing himself, and I'm sitting there like, bro, what's wrong with you? And see, y'all watching on Instagram, you can't even see the tweets because I got it on the joint. You got to get on over to the YouTubes or the Facebooks. And we got to add S on what we talking about. So Chance the Rapper today, he came out. I don't even know if he came out in favor of Kanye or if he was questioning Joe Biden or people's allegiance to the Democratic Party, which a lot of black folk do, and including Kanye, including Candace Owens. That's as far as I'm going to go on that list. But Chance the Rapper tweeted out, and y'all out here trying to convince me to vote for Biden, retweeting a video that Kanye put up of his mother, saying, in loving memory of my incredible mother on her birthday, my mom reciting KRS-One lyrics, this song is called Donda. And his response to it again was, and y'all out here trying to convince me to vote for Biden, shaking my effing head. I don't understand the parallels between the two. Rest in peace to Donda West. I don't understand what people convincing him to vote for Biden has to do with him doing a tribute to his mother. I'm about to say Lucifer had a mother, but I don't necessarily know about that. I leave that to my Bible folk and my Islamic folk. Let me know what the devil had. I'm not saying Kanye the devil. But it doesn't make sense. I just wasn't understanding. So then he came out with another tweet. And it says, are you more pro-Biden or anti-Ye, and why? I get that you'll want to reply that you're just trying to get Trump out, but in this hypothetical scenario where you're replacing Trump, can someone explain why Joe Biden would be better? And so I hear that tweet. I read that tweet rather, and it instantly becomes problematic. First off, yes, I am anti-Ye. When we talk about mental instability, Kanye has been unstable, some would say for the last 7-8 years. Some would argue longer. He's open and honest about his bipolar disorder, having been diagnosed some years ago. He's open and honest about not taking his medication for it. Again, I applaud his transparency. I applaud him being vulnerable. But we also see the effects of it. We see the delusions of grandeur. Right? We see him perseverating and being hyper-focused on certain things. Like a clothing line. Throwing everything into it. Right? Not sleeping, not eating. Being manic about it. Same thing with this Trump relationship that he had, throwing everything he had into it. All his thoughts, all his energy, his money. We see it with his now infatuation with Jesus. Yes, I said infatuation. He puts everything that he has into it. Losing sight, like he's losing touch with reality. And now we see it with this idea of him running for president, which is it can't be taken serious. And why would you, even if he was being serious, why would you want to throw your support behind somebody who waits 4 months before an election to announce their candidacy? Is this blind faith? This blind trust? Doesn't make sense. Then he says he wants to make Charlemagne the God Secretary of State. Again. And some people just laugh it off because that's what we do with somebody who's actively dealing with mental health issues a lot of times. A lot of times people laugh it off. That's just Kanye being Kanye. Right? Not knowing, again, he's not only being detrimental to himself, but he's being detrimental to the ones around him that loves him. It's part of the reason why he's so great at music. Because again, this is more information into how he was able to hone his skill and his craft. The manic state. it allows you to do that. And some people operate best in that state. Hence the reason why people don't want to take their medication. They're much more of a quote unquote free thinker in the midst of that. But this isn't about Kanye. This is about Chance the Rapper. And so Chance says, are you more pro-Biden or anti-Ye, and why? Right? Or is it just about getting Trump out? Again, everybody knows that I'm full dissident. I don't necessarily subscribe to voting in the formal political system. But the idea of just getting Trump out is enough. Why? Because we see the marginalized groups that have been impacted by his decision making. We see the increase in hate crimes and race-related attacks. So even if you aren't if you aren't pro Joe Biden and you're just, I don't want Trump here, so I'm going to vote for somebody else, that's good enough reason. But again, this is what happens when you put somebody. This is what happens when you give people pulpits, right? You give them platforms to be able to say whatever it is that they choose. This goes for all of us, because I don't necessarily say the brightest things all the time. Some things sometimes I can't read the room. I can acknowledge that. But the fact of the matter is I'm able to sit back and think critically about it and make the necessary adjustments. But the fact is, here we have Chance the Rapper trying to dissuade people. Because he'll try to frame it as, we just trying to push for more thought, push for more thinking. When in actuality, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. Jari says none of these dudes are amplifying the importance of citizens, local election, and how senator seats are more important than who's president's fact. But he didn't stop there. He went on to a third tweet. And this is where he starts to get offensive. He says, I'm going to keep it real. A lot of you N-words is racist. Again, is he reading books? This thoughtful, intelligent rapper who's supposed to represent the intellectual aspect of the genre. Talking about, I'm going to keep it real. A lot of you N-words is racist. What is racist? How are we racist? Can a marginalized group like black folk be racist? But isn't there an element of power related to it? Or is he trying to say we're self-hating, self-loathing? Not quite sure. But again, when you have these platforms, who do you have to answer to? Nobody. You can make these posts and not answer the comments, not read the comments. We go to his next tweet. If I can, there we go. I always felt the way about people using the word presidential, like an N-word acting or not acting presidential. Was Andrew Jackson acting presidential? What are you talking about, guy? What are you talking about? You went from this to using the word to talking about the term presidential. Again, I get concerned about, and people are probably like, why? This is just a distraction. But no, I think this is very important, just like Jada and Will. Because we have to be mindful of the people who we're giving voices to. Because yes, we give people voices. Who we're putting in the front of the movement. Who's the one that's true, who's out here having these conversations, quote unquote, on our behalf? Is it people like Chance the Rapper saying, yo, a lot of you N-words is racist? Yeah, I don't necessarily know if I want this brother representing me on the front lines or on any line for that matter. Then he says, I finally got the answer now. I understand. Y'all trust Biden more than y'all trust Ye. I think I understand why. I just don't feel the same way. Denise says influence. Again, we got to be mindful of the influence. Money dictates influence. It's a fact of the matter. We could say the people dictate influence all we want. Money dictates influence, and violence dictates influence. And yes, I'm still reading Frantz Fanon's Wretched of the Earth, which is an amazing book because it's talking about the times that we're experiencing right now. But it's the money, right? And it's violence. And a lot of times they go hand in hand when we're talking about influence. And he finishes it off with, I finally got the answer now. I understand. I put it up twice. Y'all trust Biden more than y'all trust Jay. I think I understand why. I just don't feel the same way. Again, now isn't the time. Now isn't the time. Just like Puff, we're going to hold our vote. Going from vote or die to now holding our vote to see what we can get out of it. You should have did that during the primary. You should have told your man Ye to be out there during the primary and going through the proper procedures if he wanted to run for president. But again, I think tonight's episode highlights the issue of influence by power. Influence by power. Influence by money. Because again, the decisions aren't necessarily the best for the people. They're not necessarily genuine. They're all about maintaining the status quo if possible. And appeasing those who truly have the influence. Marla says, this is more than a distraction. This is problematic at best and divisive on the end of the spectrum. Hip-hop needs to hit the books. I love hip-hop. But hip-hop is... And again, that white girl Tommy Lawrence said it. That white girl Tommy Lawrence said it, and it was on that Kendrick album. No, it wasn't him. It was Geraldo. And Kendrick played it on that album. And he said hip hop has destroyed more black lives or something like that. And I understand the context that he meant it. But I look at it and I become so critical. And yes, when I peel back the layers and I see what the root cause of a lot of these issues are, it is white supremacy, patriarchy, and capitalism, which Bell Hooks so brilliantly described. But again, a lot of it is us doing it to us because we lack the insight, and we're not vetting these people. We can't just let Chance the Rapper be Chance the Rapper who makes music. We got to look to him to be more. He has to be more than. Because I guess it's something against having the neighborhood influencer, the one who's very articulate, the one who's a better representative of the people. And no, this isn't respectability politics. And no, I don't doubt Chance has the best interest of the people at heart, but it doesn't come across in those tweets. And again, it continues to be divisive in a time where we don't need it. Just like Deshaun Jackson. I'm so frustrated with Deshaun. I had some time to think about it and I was about to close up. But I'm so disappointed in Deshaun. Not that he felt how he felt, but now what this does is now we have white saviors coming in. Y'all see now that folk from Auschwitz, a concentration camp survivor, God bless him, invited Deshaun to go to Auschwitz, and Deshaun said yes. We have all the Jewish folk reaching out to him so they could learn about, so they can inform and educate Deshaun. And not a damn one of these people came out to understand what's happening about the black plight in America. about the black plight in Africa. None of them has come out. Julian Edelman says, yeah, I want you to go to the Smithsonian Jewish Museum. I went there in elementary school. I saw the lights made of people's skin. Where he says, if you go here, then I'll come to your museum. Teach me about the Negroes. You didn't have this desire prior to? And it's like, Deshaun, this wasn't the time. This wasn't the time. Because what this does is it does take away. This does take away. Because this puts a focus on a group. And I hate, I don't want to say like I'm an anti-Semite. But I feel like Malcolm Jenkins feel. And I never thought I would say that. I never thought I would say, I feel like Malcolm Jenkins feel. Truth be told, Malcolm Jenkins has leaned into his blackness over the past year or so more than I'd ever thought. When Eric Reed got up in his face and said, listen, you just co-opted the movement, which very definitely happened. That coalition definitely co-opted the movement, for sure. But now when I hear Malcolm speak, it's just a little bit higher. His melanin is glistening just a little bit more, like he put some baby oil on. And he said, listen, he said, you know, I empathize with them. But what they got going on, we got to focus, we got to keep the eye on the prize. Black folk got to worry about black folk right now. And I'm okay with that sentiment. I was listening to Sports Talk Radio. I'm not going to beat y'all across the head with it. Hear about this idea of equality. And it's just like, no, we're not asking for equality. We're asking for equity. Shoot, if it was a stronger word than equity, we would be asking for that. And so I salute Malcolm Jenkins for saying no, because he was the conversation of talk radio all weekend. I applaud him for saying no. Listen, that's cool. We see what's happening over there. Now, Eric, I don't know Eric Reed personally, so I can't call him a nut, right? But I feel him. I feel the enthusiasm. Eric Reed would be the muscle, right? He would be the sergeant of arms of the Black Panther Party. You know what I'm saying? But again, we in different times. And speaking of saluting people, I salute LeBron. I salute LeBron for saying, I'm not wearing this damn slogan on the back of my jersey. This goes against what I'm about. This goes against what I'm out here trying to do. These symbolic gestures, granted, I'm cool Kyle Korver got the Black Lives Matter on. I'm grateful that he penned the article for the Players Tribune. If we talking about allies on probation, Kyle Korver is definitely one of them. If he wanted to have a conversation about the experience of a black man in society, I would more than gladly sit down with him because he's doing the work on his own. Even though it's a symbolic gesture, that's a step in the right direction. But for the rest of the NBA, like, oh no, baby, what is you doing? And I talked about these slogans last week, so I'm not going to rehash it. But I'm respecting, especially the black folk who's saying, no, I'm just going to put my name on a jersey. Because I can't get behind this. Because this does nothing. This does nothing. Marla says maybe this is the time to see who people really are that we once rode with or not, what they believe and how they are in line with our values and thus are not speaking to or for me. Facts. again, we got to see this. Again, the line is the same, not just for white folk, not for Asian folk, for Latinx folk, black folk. Listen, you either with us or you against us. You either with us or you against us. Jari giving the gems. That's why I got to have you on, Ja. So he could get these gems. He says he came at Malcolm because NFL was blackballing him and Cat for kneeling and not Malcolm for hold up his fist. Boy, nothing. I told him to his face. None of his players came to his aid. I don't know if I'm necessarily fighting you either, Ja. I know you ain't in your Jeff Saturday bag yet. You notice I said yet because you going to get there. You're going to be like 180 pounds. Right? But again, it's, we in this pivotal moment in sports. That's why for those of you who haven't joined the book club, shoot me a message because we're reading $40 Million Slave by William Roden. And it talks about the evolution of the black athlete. I thought it'd be apropos for the time that we're in now to really gain a greater understanding of where we've been, especially when we talk about athletes, because I just think it's such an interesting time where, again, athletes are leading. Kyrie led a conversation on Breonna Taylor. The great thing about that is he brought in some thinkers, the Brittany Coopers. I'm trying to think of anybody else that I can remember. I know he had Common. I have my thoughts about Common. But again, that's one name, Brittany Cooper. That's enough when we talk about advocating for women and black women at that. Athletes are at the forefront of this movement. And so it'd be dope to see where we've come. Because again, we got what they're doing right now is representative of the work that folk like not only Kaepernick, but Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jim Brown before he went, whatever he went with Trump, the Tommy Smiths, the Maya Moores now, who are risking it all. And that's why I firmly believe in what Dr. Harry Edwards said, where he said that Kaepernick should get the Nobel Peace Prize because he represents a community who over the course of 50, 60, we're talking about Jesse Owens, we're talking about Wilma Rudolph, we're talking about over the course of decades and decades, who have stood up for black folk in the most difficult circumstances. Would encapsulate the works of these people and those to come. And also, I got a whole bunch of thoughts. Having listened to some people that I admire, the kid maker, McCord Maker, going to Howard, that's not going to do nothing. And it's sad to say that it's not going to change the landscape of black kids going to HBCUs, just because he's not that talented, right? And when I say not that talented, it's on the level of we talk about LeBron, we talk about this Mikey Williams kid, right? I didn't know that a 5-star basketball player means you're in like the top 40 or 50. That's a big difference, being number 1 and being number 50. And we saw the number 1 and the number 2, they committed to Michigan State. Now what'll happen is he has to be at least a top 5 pick. But I like the idea for sure. But I'm just not encouraged that this type of change will be something that'll be consistent going forward. Yeah, you listen, man. Jari says there's not enough HBCUs to house all the black sports talent. There is. When I was getting, because I do my public speaking thing, and when I was sending my emails to HBCUs, I literally came across about 100 HBCUs. See, we think about the Howard, the Hamptons, the Dell States, the Cheneys, the Bethune-Cookmans, not. It's at first. It's enough. It's definitely enough. It says these teenagers should not be pressured to go to HBCUs. They are children. I wouldn't necessarily call it pressure. Or if we do want to call it pressure, I would say yes, they should be pressured to go to HBCUs, especially if they have a goal of going to college. Just because, again, it's about where can you have your needs met as a black man, woman, or person in these academic arenas, right? And so we're talking about the total wellness of a black child. And I'm sorry, you can't get this from PWIs. I had an interview today with Dell State for an adjunct position. We'll see how it goes. And it was a white woman who was interviewing me. It was such irony. But she was cool. She was a cool white woman. And so I asked her, I said, what is this? Again, it's a social work position. I asked her, I said, what is this black experience that I'm seeing in the midst of seeing in the course descriptions for intro to social work, for policy? It's like you keep talking about black experience. I keep seeing it. And this is one of the underpinnings of the program. The black experience. And so my mind was blown. Because me, somebody who's been critical about the field of social work and social work curriculum and how it's not necessarily anti-racist, right? And how they perpetuate a lot of the stereotypes and racist behaviors by the courses that they offer. And so what that means is how a lot of these white social workers go out in black communities and brown communities with that savior complex because they've been empowered by the curriculum, right? They've been empowered by the curriculum. And so we're here to say, listen, these black kids and non-black kids who are in this program, taking this coursework, no, we are enlightening them, making them aware. And then it's something to be said. I know you say it's not up to a PWI to provide our youth with black knowledge or history. It's up to the parents. In a perfect world, that's true. But not if we're talking about fostering critical thinking, if we're talking about safety, if we're talking about minimizing the acts of violence, not only physical violence, but we're talking about psychological violence too, that take place. You with the bloom. You know how they gave it up in that small town, those white folk in the university, how they breaking up black parties but letting the white parties go on. A lot of this plays a role in shaping how these 17, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds see the world. And sure, there are plenty of negative black experiences at HBCUs. But again, it's about this. First, again, I look at safety, psychological safety, educational safety, right? There's always going to be, negative experiences. But again, it's where am I going to go where I recognize that the foundation in the coursework, and not even the foundation of the coursework, the foundation of the university is geared toward my excellence. We got to recognize that HBCUs came up for a reason. They started for a reason. Like when we sit and listen to these stories, I was listening to a conversation about David Duke, and how Garrett Temple plays in the NBA. His father played at LSU, and he was the first black basketball player at LSU in 1971, 1972. And he talked about what that environment was like on campus. You got David Duke. KKK, self-appointed KKK Grand Master who ran for office in Louisiana. You have him shouting at you, talking about your existence means nothing. We got segregation. We got to segregate ourselves from the Jews, from the Negroes. At least at bare minimum, that's one thing you don't have to worry about. Yes, would there be some another type of elitism because you come from one area? You might be an affluent black person who go to Howard versus somebody who isn't. Yeah, but again, at its core, it's not a matter of race. You're right. Psychological educational safety starts at home, but again, once we start to go out in these arenas, again, the fact that I've gone to four PWIs, and I can say that my experience as a black man wasn't necessarily valued. It wasn't valued. What I had to offer as a black man in any of these universities was valued. And so the difference is, I feel like if I would have went to a HBCU, I wouldn't necessarily be just another number. Even if I was just another number, there's a sense of pride. There's a sense of community, right? That's again, we forced ourselves to have community at these PWIs, but that overall sense is just lacking. It's just lacking. Hence the reason why my goal is not to teach at no Harvard or nothing like that. Listen, I'm going to be with the Negroes. That's my goal. Just like Dr. Gregory Carr, be brilliant at Howard, I'm trying to be right there with him. Unless the money, because I did start this off by talking about capitalism, right? Unless the money get right. But listen, man. We're going to have to keep this convo up tomorrow, Joe. I got to do a fake workout with some bands, so I could try to. I'm starting to get a little fluffy out here, man. So listen, I appreciate y'all all for tuning in. Until tomorrow, peace.